you don't know, I wrote a book called Dark Skies. I wrote a book, and there's a lot of stuff about the grey aliens in there. If you would like to purchase my ebook, it's on for sale at my website, www.evestar.me. So once you have my ebook, you'll look at chapter 2, which has some pictures of the grey aliens, and I've drawn them in there. And in chapter 5, it's got a story of my soul getting abducted by a grey alien and other soul abductions that I talk about, which is very important, and I want people to know about that. And in chapter 6, it's got most of the information about the grey aliens in there, which I wrote in 2014, 2015. So this has been a few years ago. So there's a lot more information that will be in my second book. So my second book, Dark Skies 2, is going to have a different title, and I'm still writing that at the moment. So that'll be out sometime this year or next year. So this is a picture I've drawn of one of the ETs named Aldor, and he is one of the first Greys who spoke to me quite a lot in the beginning in 2014, and he was the one who gave me the title. I'm not sure if it was him, but he was one of them talking to me at the time, so it's most likely him that would have given me the title, but there were also other Greys around me. So he told me these incredible things, and before I knew a whole lot more about what was happening on Earth with our politicians, the media lying to us and all these other issues which I didn't really know about at the time. He was well aware of the situation on Earth and all these events and the lies being told to all of us, and I was surprised that he wanted to talk about that. When I first started listening to Aldor and the things he was trying to explain to me, I couldn't believe what he was saying. He was saying that global warming wasn't real, it was a lie, and that it was caused by something else. And he was also saying how our politicians were all lying to us, and he couldn't stand watching the news, and he just knew their agendas, and he was so passionate about humans and the whole programming and lies over us. So this is early on in 2014. He already he knew about everything, and I was just sitting there channeling, listening to him, going, I can't believe that you're telling me this. And so things I had to research for myself, global warming, it's not real, so I had to look it up for myself and read things on the internet. I found out that it actually is caused by something else. And Aldo was telling me that they were doing experiments in the North and South Pole, and they're not supposed to be doing this, and it's causing problems with the Earth. And so I was like, wow, and I could actually see these experiments scientists were doing as he was telling me that. Hi guys, so it's good to be making another video again, and in this video I wanted to talk about the grey aliens and what they really are and what I think they are, in my opinion and in my experiences as well with the grey aliens. What I'd love to share with you. I've seen many different grey aliens and what they look like. They're all different heights and different appearances, and the different skin tones as well. And there's also grey alien hybrids as well, and other species of hybrid grey that exist. But aside from that, I want to talk about what they really are and explain to the people what they really are, and not to be confused with these people who are saying grey aliens are demons because of their eyes. I've read a lot of crazy stuff out there, and I'm just like reading and going, yeah, obviously like a fake grey went into your room, so now you assume that all grey aliens are demons, which is absolutely not true. And I know it's not true because I know what a demon is and I know what a grey alien is, and they are not the same thing. They're completely different, and I've had experiences with dark entities, these demons, and an extraterrestrial is completely non-related to a demon from the underworld. So I can explain that to you now and tell you the truth about what a grey alien really is. A grey alien is an extraterrestrial from outer space. They're cloned, so they don't get born naturally like humans do. And you know, they've shown me the cloning tanks. They've shown me the you know, what color it is and how they take care of them. They've told me why they do abductions, and they've told me a lot of things that they wanted to explain to me, and they want me to explain to the public as well why they're abducting people, why they're coming to Earth, and who they are. So this is their story that they want to share. And I've also drawn pictures of them, you know, over the past few years since I wrote Dark Skies, my first book. You know, I've had so many visions of them, so many pictures that I've drawn, and I want to share it with you and finalize the truth. You know, I want you to know who they are as well. A real gray alien versus a fake gray alien robot. There are two types of gray aliens, and I want to explain this to you. They're actual real gray aliens. So they're real. You know, they get cloned, they're not born, you know, like a natural birth. And so those are the real gray aliens. They're on their own, they're conscious on their own, they're not controlled by anything else. They're, you know, they're 100% gray aliens, right? And then you have the second type of gray alien, which is a fake gray alien or a robot type gray alien. And what these are, they're controlled, so they're more of a cloned suit, a type of robot, but they're a gray alien, but they're a robot, right? So inside they're not a real gray, they're fake. They're like a fake robot gray. I want to show you a Twitter comment Tilla Tequila made, and she warned every one of these fake alien robots. So let's have a look at the Twitter post that she made in detail. So obviously, reading this Twitter post, she's under a lot of psychic attack, a lot of black magic attack as well. Obviously, someone has asked, you know, reptilians have asked some witches to curse her, or, you know, Illuminati is obviously not happy with her talking, and they've also warned me as well not to talk about some things. So if you read through, you'll go here and say, and have a read of this. As for your little gimmicks, sending over 3 dark man-made greys to scare me, ha, you think I'm that dumb? Well, now the joke's on you. Your fake man-made wannabe greys won't do shit. But at least I'm friends with real ones from the good light white side. They are real. Give it up with your pathetic fake greys. People are becoming a lot stronger and smarter than you realize. They are coming for you, and you know they're not happy. You can't keep blocking them out of Google Earth for much longer by using some lame dark square in attempts to keep the public from knowing the truth, which they have a right to know. So I've also had these fake greys sent to me, and I had to figure out what was happening and what was in front of me, because I couldn't figure out what these black shadows were, and they were looking like gray aliens, and I figured it out. I'm like, they're fake greys. They're not gray aliens at all. And, you know, they'll say negative things to you. They'll attack you in the room. They're dark entities, but they're robots. They're not real. So I've had these really horrible experiences with these fake greys, and I started having visions of the reptilians. So if we look at this picture, this is on a reptilian spaceship. And I've drawn a reptilian, a brown scaly reptilian wearing a long black cloak. And the interior of the spaceship is actually a very dark color, maybe black or dark gray is the interior color of the reptilian spaceship. If we look on top of the reptilian's head, we've got a helmet, and we've got all these tubes connecting to these gray aliens. So he is creating these fake robotic grays. If we look at the right hand side at the top of the ceiling, we see a robotic arm, and this is what I saw in my vision, that they have these they can create these robotic entities on their spaceship. And so you can see this robotic arm, and it's creating all the wiring, and essentially how it works is the reptilian's consciousness is creating these with his own energy and programming it with his own energy and consciousness to create these fake entity greys, which will then be used for a purpose to attack someone, to misinform someone, to say very negative things, to attack someone. Basically, these are man-made robotic entities, and they are controlled by the reptilian's consciousness or a device that he has on him. And he'll send these fake greys to confuse awakeners, confuse people who are starting to contact ETs, confuse people and hurt people who know too much. I've done it to Tiller, to Killer, and they've done it to me, and I'm pretty sure they've done it to a whole lot of other people. If we look at this picture here that I've drawn, it shows these 3 grey aliens on a conveyor belt. Now this conveyor belt moves around, and the reptilian with a device in his hand is controlling this conveyor belt. And with this device, he can also control these fake man-made grey aliens, which are like a robotic vessel or a suit. So you can see on the right hand side, he has them all standing up now, and he's programmed them for a purpose, and he can use these greys to work as slaves or to attack people, to do whatever he wants them to do. So the reptilian may use this to confuse an awakened person as well, and make them think that grey aliens are evil, and obviously confuse them, because that's the whole reptilian's game, to confuse the enemy and cast an illusion over them and put a fake projection in front of them. That's exactly how reptilians work with their enemies. And in this picture that I've drawn, I was in bed, and there was a dark entity in front of me. Obviously my astral body can come out, so I grabbed its arm and I pulled it off, and I saw all this wiring, and I was saying, oh my goodness, what is this? This is a robot. So I figured out that there were these man-made fake greys that they were sending to me to attack me, and they were not real grey aliens at all. So I've seen that grey aliens have been visiting Earth for a very long time. I don't exactly see them during the Jurassic period, but I'm pretty sure that they can travel through time and visit at any point in Earth's history. So where I see grey aliens coming in seems to be the time where early human hominids existed in our ancient past on Earth. And that would make sense, because to them, these new hominid Earth species was new, and they wanted to study humans very early on in the past, and not just grey aliens, other alien species. There were so many races that came here very early on in the past to study the early hominid human. So obviously there was a lot that happened in the past. I'm not gonna give everything. I'm gonna put it in another video if you want to talk about human origins. So to conclude, the question, how long have they been visiting Earth for? They've been visiting Earth since the beginning. The grey aliens have been coming to Earth for a very long time. Where do grey aliens come from? Many of you may have heard of the famous alien abduction case of Betty and Barney Hill, who were abducted by grey aliens who showed them a drawing of a star map which matched Zeta Reticuli in our galaxy. I'm not certain for sure where exactly these grey aliens come from, but I do know that these grey aliens do not come from Earth, so they originate from somewhere else in the galaxy, which really could be the Zeta Reticuli, or they could come from another dimension themselves. For me, I have had a few visions that I will explain. So I wanted to find out where these grey aliens came from. So I decided to have a look and see if I could see a vision or see where they came from. So what I saw was a planet where I saw these grey aliens, and something happened, some kind of disaster, and I could see a white domed nuclear power plant, and this is an alien power plant. It's a alien nuclear power plant, and what I saw was it had a reactor meltdown. So something happened in that on their planet where they had a reactor meltdown with a nuclear power plant, and it exploded. And I see all of these grey aliens running and trying to get out, and they're You know, some of them are injured very badly. It was a really it was a disaster. So I can see them running and trying to help each other, carrying each other out of this disaster zone. So I had another vision, whether or not this is on the same planet or there are a few planets where these gray aliens exist. I saw that there is a tall gray alien prime minister. So he's light gray, around 7 foot tall, maybe taller. And I saw that many of these politician gray aliens are quite tall in their height. And so what happened was, I see the reptilians invaded. I see these black triangle ships in the clouds, in the atmosphere. And they're invading. And so I think one of these reptilians, you know, threatened them. And the prime minister was very reluctant to agree to these reptilians' terms. So obviously they threatened to harm the planet, to blow it up, and this prime minister didn't want war. He was very reluctant to agree to these reptilians' terms, but in the end he didn't want his people to be harmed. So he agreed to some control the reptilians wanted over their planet, maybe a trade agreement. There was some agreement put in place, but not over everything. So I saw that this gray alien politician was very reluctant to go on to agree to the terms the reptilians wanted. And they basically, these reptilians invaded this gray aliens planet, and this is what I saw in my vision. There are many species of gray aliens. They look different. So I've drawn up this picture of two gray aliens. On the left we see a small dark gray alien. So with my soul abductions, I felt that these gray aliens had very small hands, had a very small body, similar to this gray alien I've drawn on the left. Now other people and witnesses who've been abducted by aliens have also spoke about how the aliens were quite small and short. And I had one guy tell me a story about how he saw a small dark gray alien, and he didn't have a big head. He actually had quite a normal sized head, but he did look like a gray alien. So he told me that what happened was he went camping with his family in a caravan, and he woke up and he saw this gray alien on top of the ladder just staring at him. And so he was like, you know, and then he heard the voice of this gray saying, oh, go back to sleep. And so he went back to sleep. And these gray aliens have some mind control powers, and they can make you in a very sleepy state. So they've got certain powers, these gray aliens, as well. So these small dark gray aliens are the ones that alien abductees recall and can describe. So if you ask me which gray aliens are the ones responsible for these physical alien abductions, I see them as short grays, so they're dark gray skinned to light gray skinned gray aliens. So and they're quite short, maybe under 4 foot. Some are quite taller, so it really depends. The gray aliens really vary in their height. They get really tall. Some of these grays, they get to 7 foot tall, possibly even taller than that. But usually, most witnesses have seen these smaller grays. And it's very rare, but some people have also seen these tall gray aliens as well. And I believe there's also medium height aliens as well. So they've got different heights, but usually they're the short grays that you see. Now with the gray alien skin color, the skin color ranges between a very dark gray color, and it goes all the way to a light ash white skin color, and some of them actually do look quite white skinned. So I do think that there are some grays that have a white skin, but usually I see them as an example. The gray alien on the right, which is a bit taller than the one on the left, is a light gray skinned alien, very light ash color. So I've seen a lot of those gray aliens, and they seem to be, independent, and and I've heard other people say very similar things to what I've seen as well. There are these light gray skinned aliens, and then there seems to be the dark gray ones. So it really varies with their skin color. The gray aliens, I channeled this message from the gray aliens. I sat down and in my Dark Skies book, in chapter 10, Space Time, it's got an equation in there that I channeled from the gray aliens. And when I had this equation and I wrote it down, it was actually Elia that, and a few grays that were next to me as I wrote it down during the day, these equations. And she showed me in my head, this is what I want, these are the symbols I want you to write down. Do this triangle, do this, and draw it like this, draw this symbol. I was like, what on earth is that symbol, Saturn or Neptune? And I don't really know anything about physics. Okay, so the top equation that I drew in this whole A3 page of equations, I didn't think it would come up as anything. I thought it was gibberish. I didn't know anything about quantum physics, and I was like, what on earth is this? So I had a small physics book, and one day I was reading through, and I was looking through because I wanted to learn about quantum physics, because the gray aliens were talking about quantum physics, and I wasn't understanding, much of it. I was like, okay, I don't know much about these atomic particles, so I better read so I can understand some more. And in this small physics book that I had, I ended up on a page, and it said, it was the uncertainty principle. And I said, hang on a minute. So I said, that looks a lot like the equation I was given by the gray aliens, a month ago. And I was like, wait a minute, this looks really similar. I've seen this before. So then I put the book down, and I went looking for that piece of paper that I had. And I looked at the piece of paper where I drew the equation that I was channeled from the grays. And then I looked at the equation in this small physics book on that page, and I looked at the name, the uncertainty principle, and it matched the uncertainty principle, which was on the physics page, and they looked extremely similar. And I was like, hang on, oh my goodness, I think they've given me the uncertainty principle, but I didn't believe it would come out as anything. So I found it a month later, and I thought, hang on, I don't think it's the same, because this one kind of has a H at the end, and it doesn't have this Saturn Neptune symbol over 2. And I was like, oh, it's probably like it's just really confusing. I don't know why it's come out like that. It's probably not the same. And then I've actually, and so the year goes on, and I end up finding going on the internet, looking up the uncertainty principle because I want to explain it in my book. And I end up finding an equation that has the same symbol over 2. And it's exactly what the gray aliens gave me, this symbol over 2. So, I was pretty blown away. I was like, oh my goodness, like it actually looks exactly the same as the equation I was given. And I really couldn't believe it. I was a bit shocked and a bit scared. I was like, it is actually very accurate. The only difference it had was my equation had an extra px on the second triangle. But I remember when Elia spoke to me as she was channeling with me, and I was writing it down, she's like, that's pretty good. It's a little bit off, but that's good. You've got it right. It's really good. So maybe that X isn't meant to be there. Maybe it's just a P by itself, but who knows? Maybe she channeled the PX in front of the second triangle, the delta, for a reason. So I had like 100% no clue about quantum physics. Some gray aliens come along, and who I know and I've talked with, and they come along, and one of them, Elia, just tells me this is the uncertainty principle. And not just that, she was speaking about, the universe, the many worlds theory. There was a lot of things that I wrote that were underneath this equation that they wanted me to know about. So maybe this uncertainty principle is related to these other quantum physics equations, and it's all related together, and they're trying to tell us something. And I believe that's why Alia gave me this principle. She wanted me to understand that this uncertainty principle is true. So what is Heisenberg's uncertainty principle? So the Heisenberg's uncertainty principle was named after Werner Heisenberg, who was a German theoretical physicist, and he contributed a lot to quantum mechanics. So what is Heisenberg most famous for? So he developed new theories in quantum mechanics about the behavior of electrons in his experiments, and the uncertainty principle was explaining how there is some uncertainty in knowing exactly where these atomic particles are going to end up, and how fast it is going. So that's what this Heisenberg's principle means. And he won a Nobel Prize in physics in 1932 for his subsequent research and application of this principle. So Werner Heisenberg made the uncertainty principle from his experiments from which he had concluded that there is an uncertainty in predicting exactly where these electrons, these light particles, he studied photons as well, and where these atomic particles will end up. So, and in this equation, that is what he discovered. So it's interesting to understand why the Greys would want to give me an equation like this, but they're very into quantum mechanics, these Grey aliens, and they love science, they love astronomy, and they love studying about everything. They're very intelligent, these Grey aliens, and I can understand why they would give me Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, because they want us to understand more about quantum mechanics and these particles. And they even told me that there are more particles to be discovered in the future, a few more to be discovered. So that was interesting to know. So on to another topic that was channeled to me by the Greys. One day I was at home and they said, Nautilus program, and I just typed it in on the internet, and I was like, what on earth is that? And I typed it in on the internet and I had a look, and I found something called the Ocean Exploration Trust, and I realized what they were trying to tell me, because they told me before that they explore the trenches deep under the ocean, and they explore under the sea, and they love traveling underwater. So I realized that this Nautilus exploration program is these robotic vehicles that can travel underwater. This whole program, the Greys knew about, and they were trying to tell me there's this program, the Nautilus exploration program, and they said Nautilus. They were really strongly saying it, and where these robotic operated vehicles, go under deep on the sea floor to study the aquatic life and to find new species of life in the oceans. So I thought it was incredibly amazing that I knew nothing about this, and they just said to me very strongly, Nautilus program, Nautilus, just type it in, you'll find out what we're trying to say. And I did, and they've spoken to me many times, and I see them in the ocean sometimes in their spacecraft, and they really love it in the ocean and exploring our oceans. So when I was writing Dark Skies, there was something I knew nothing about that the Grey aliens channeled to me, a human growth project, and they called it a gene bank, and they were very specific in calling it a gene bank. And they also said the Human Genome Project. And I was like, what on earth is that? And I looked it up on the internet, and I was like, wow, this is like mapping the human genome and all the humans' DNA on the earth. And I was like, this is really interesting, and I knew nothing about it, but they channeled to me in chapter 6 in my Dark Skies book, this human growth project, a gene bank these grey aliens had created with our human genome. Human growth project, gene bank, Eshelid the grey alien. Utterly valuable is human life, so valuable that we have created a gene bank containing all the different genetic material taken from abductees of all different races, just in case the Earth suffers a huge devastation, wiping out all living humans. I can understand why these grey aliens would be worried about our race. Considering the war happening and the hostility with these nuclear weapons, I can understand why the grey aliens would take precautionary measures to create a human gene bank. If we look at what else they wrote down, this is what else he said in the channeled message. We look at the different genes, and it is so amazing seeing the ancestry of human beings and how it came to be. Some gene mixtures we use to create new hybrids because they have something in the DNA that is important for the future and all of Earth's inhabitants. For so long we have tried again and again to create and master genetic experimentation of the perfect hybrid human being, and we have finally succeeded. It was a girl, and she is now 5 years of age, and exceeding her peers with intelligence, and has been everything we have hoped for. There were 2 other male hybrids that got close to, but they didn't make it, and died from the DNA faults, and the dual hybrid genes mixed. Didn't work properly. It is very sad because this has happened more than once, and there's not much we can do. So I can understand why these grey aliens would be very interested in human DNA, because they're doing these alien abductions, and they have succeeded in already making these human grey hybrids. So they've gotten what they wanted, and they're moving on to other things now. So if we look at this Human Genome Project, I looked it up on the internet. The Human Genome Project was an international scientific research project with the goal of determining the sequence of nucleotide base pairs that make up human DNA, and of identifying and mapping all of the genes of the human genome from both a physical and functional standpoint. So this whole Human Genome Project, the grey aliens were well aware of this project, and the grey aliens made their own gene bank of the human genome, and I can understand how this is all related and how these aliens are very aware of the projects we have going on. Okay, so grey alien hybrids. The grey aliens who communicate with me have told me that they have hybrid grey aliens on their spaceship, and they are teaching them, and they teach them about human children, about human life and society, and they also teach these hybrids maths, physics, and all these different other subjects as well. And the grey aliens that I spoke to gave special consideration and a lot of care in the way they talk about raising these hybrid children on the spaceship. In this picture here, it shows Elia, one of the grey aliens that I communicated with, and she's holding a half-human, half-grey child which has thin, blonde, wispy hair and very big blue eyes. Early in 2014, when I had my soul abductions, I believed that I was also physically abducted, and I was told by the grey aliens that I had a physical, half-human grey child, a hybrid, and they took eggs out of me and they grew him in a lab. So I have a physical half-grey human child that's a boy, and I'm aware of him, and the greys have made me aware of him too. He looks more like a grey alien than he does a human, but still he is still half human. So at the moment, I only have one physical hybrid child who is half human and half grey that I know about. And I have a whole lot of soul children. I'm not even going to tell you how many soul children I have because you'll just be shocked. Probably over 200 soul children, but in a physical child sense, I only have one physical hybrid child. So there are other hybrids on the ship, and I know that the Greys are taking eggs from many female abductees that they have chosen interest in, and they grow these eggs, you know, and mix it with Grey aliens' DNA and make these hybrids in a lab. And it's almost like the Grey aliens want to become closer to humans, but also in a sense to save their dying race as well. They've chosen to create these hybrids for a reason. So in this image here, I've made a sim on Sims 4 because it's easy for me to try and describe to you how they really look. So I made this sim, and it's actually, Sims 4 is actually really good because you can really make an exact copy of how a hybrid looks and show it to people. So in this, if you look at this sim here, which is, you know, a depiction of a hybrid human half grey. So these grey aliens can make hybrids look more grey alien than a human. It really depends on the percentage and the mixture or the variation that they've made during their genetic modification or the mixing. So if you look at this hybrid female here, she has the black eyes that are quite big, elongated eyes, but they still look human, and she has no hair on her head, so she's inherited you know, the grey alien's boldness. And you know, would have thin lips and you know, a very small nose or very thin nose. And then you have this hybrid look, and with the witnesses, they report the hybrid children having thin wispy blonde hair, you know, big blue eyes. They're a little bit elongated, more than a human, but still retaining some of their human features. So if you look at this sim that I've made, this looks like an exact copy of most of these hybrids. This is would look like a half grey, half human hybrid. Very thin lips. In this picture, she's got her lips don't look too thin, but the shape of the face as well, the eyes, the eyebrows, and the hair. This is what a half grey, half human would look like. So yeah, just ignore the tombstone and the Sims in the background. I was like playing, and you know, it gets a bit crazy on Sims 4. So anyway, I was just trying to show you, I was just in a hurry, and I was trying to make these hybrid Sims to take pictures of them to show you what they look like. I've also seen a half human, half grey girl on the spaceship, and the grey aliens have told me about her, and because I was thinking about talking about hybrids, and they said, hey, you know that there's one hybrid that has red hair. And I was like, wow, that's really interesting. You know, I thought most of them have very thin blonde hair, you know, bald heads, looking more like a half human grey. But they said that some of the hybrids turn out with red hair too, so it's very interesting. And if you think about red hair is a very rare recessive gene to have, and it's said to be caused by mutation, but I believe there's more to know about the red hair gene and where it comes from. So this is a sim I made who looks like a hybrid grey, except he's male, and you can see the eyes, and he's got almost no eyebrows, very thin eyebrows, blonde hair, and this has got quite thick blonde hair. In real life you'd have more of a very thin blonde hair, thin lips. So this is what a male hybrid grey would look like. This is a picture of another male hybrid human grey, except he doesn't have the blonde hair and more of a bald head. And this is an image of a hybrid human grey who looks more grey alien than he does human. So you can definitely see the grey alien features here, but at the same time you can also see the human features coming through. So some of these hybrid gray aliens would blend in a crowd and they'd only look a little bit unusual, maybe even Scandinavian. And some of these other gray aliens, half gray aliens, would definitely stand out in a crowd and be noticed. So it's really amazing to see these half human, half gray hybrids, and the mixtures that they come out with and what they look like in their appearances is amazing. Grey alien abductions can be very traumatic for the abductees and the person who is being abducted. And this is why, with most alien abduction cases, the grey aliens go to great lengths to remove the memories of the alien abduction from the abductee's mind, so that the person will be able, won't have these traumatic memories of being abducted. And it's very frightening for a human to see a gray alien they've never seen before, because they don't exactly post pictures of gray aliens on the internet. They do not put pictures of gray aliens in our history books. They keep aliens out of our education system, out of our books, out of our history. So when a human sees a gray alien for the first time whilst being abducted, it can be very frightening for a human to see another being, and also the fear of also not knowing why it wants to abduct you and what it wants with you and what its intentions are. So whilst I do have this picture of a UFO in Sims 4, I also want to stress that grey alien abductions are real and they've happened to many people, and it's very traumatic for these people, and it's something that may take them a while to get over, or something that they eventually get over with time. And a lot of people who know and feel like they've been abducted but they can't quite remember, do an alien abduction regression to try and get these memories back in their mind. And usually what they remember, they can recall being abducted, where they were and what they saw. So they're able to get these memories back, which is very interesting. And I have also done a alien abduction regression, and I was able to remember the feeling of laying down on a table and gray aliens around me, and reptilians too. So this is real. This has happened to me. This has happened to many other people. To understand why some people get abducted by gray aliens, it can be several reasons. One of them is it could be karma from a previous life as an extraterrestrial, and it's a karmic payback for something you did in your past life, where you abducted someone and experimented on them. And so that could be one of the reasons someone may get abducted. And I also talked to another person, and that made sense to me as well. Another reason is if you ask for an experience with the grey. So if you say, I want to get abducted by the grey aliens, and you're connecting with their energies, and you kind of force that to happen. And if you can communicate with the greys and you can see them, they'll take great interest in you, which is what happened with me. Another reason someone may have been abducted by grey aliens is because the grey aliens are looking for people with very special DNA. They're very into genetics, and they look for certain genes. And again, this is why they have a gene bank. They're trying to track certain humans, because they want to extract eggs from them, DNA samples, sperm, all of these physical samples, and things they need to create these hybrid human children, and also hybrid animal species as well, half human, half animal. So these greys are very into these genetic experimentations to create a new species. Now, how the alien abductions work. So this is what I've seen in my physical alien abduction case. I wasn't awake for it, but you don't have to be awake. It's actually better if you're asleep. And they will actually make sure they have a device and they have technology that can make you stay asleep in your bed. They can make sure everyone in the house is asleep and does not wake up. They can turn all the lights out in the entire house. They have the technology to do all these things, and people need to understand this. So this is why a lot of people who do get abducted physically by aliens, and they can't recall anything, is because you're asleep, and they take you through the wall. They're able to, in alien abductions, when I see what's happening during alien abductions in my visions, what I see is people disappearing. They're in bed, and then it's as though they're taken into another dimension, and they disappear with a flash of light. So if we look at this picture here, we look at this girl in bed. If you can imagine this girl, suddenly disappearing from her bed, and you see a flash of light, and then she's just bang gone, and you see the sheets of her bed going down. It's like she just vanished into thin air. But these gray aliens are able to either teleport her onto the spaceship, but what I also think it could be is that they're actually taking her out of this dimension, the third dimension, and taking her into the fourth or fifth dimension. But I think it's the fourth dimension. It's the one right next to the third. So this is what happens during an alien abduction. So this is what I'm seeing, and I saw this with one girl, and she's like, have I been abducted? And I'm like, so what I saw was she was right next to her window. And I saw her disappearing in a flash of light, and there's a spaceship outside. You can't see it, but it's there. It's in the other dimension. And I saw that she, these blankets just falling down as if she just disappeared out of her bed. But she was abducted by these gray aliens and taken into another dimension. But the dimension is right in the dimension that we're in. It's very confusing. It's a third and fourth dimension. So this is what I see happening during these physical alien abductions. With the gray alien abductions, I will also like to note that during the alien abductions, the gray aliens and other alien species who do the abductions on Earth as well, they're able to move us through the wall, through the roof, through the ceiling, as if that they can physically change the matter and vibrate it to a point where our bodies actually pass through it, where it's almost invisible. But it would make more sense that they would move us into another dimension, our physical body into another dimension, and move us through the ceiling and the wall as if it was never there. So with many people who've been abducted by the gray aliens and what they've witnessed, they describe, being laid down on a table and having the gray aliens experiment on them, different parts of their body, insert things into their abdomen. So the next morning, if they don't recall the abduction experience, many abductees recall having needle marks on their arms and on different parts of their body. The alien abductee may also have physical solid implants in their body. And obviously if the gray aliens or another species of alien does this to a human, it's because they're very interested in the human and they're experimenting on them with the implants, or they're putting the implants in the human to find them again. Like some kind of tracking device. So there's different reasons that they put these solid implants in, and I've seen that there are quite a few people. I come from Australia, but I do see that there are some people who have implants in their hands, at the back of their neck, in their spine, And it's though the reptilians and greys and are trying to achieve something with the abductee by altering their DNA in some way with these implants. Mind control. They also have mind control implants. So there's different reasons that they put these implants in people. And also, if you have the implants, people have also described that electronic things go crazy around them. When they go check out, things don't work, or, radios go crazy, and it's because of these implants give off some sort of frequency that makes these maybe a magnetic field, that makes these electrical items around the abductees go mad. With what I've seen and heard from the grey aliens, I see that the grey aliens are interested in rhesus negative people, and I believe this is because people with rhesus negative blood or DNA have extraterrestrial blood and DNA lineage to a percentage, so they've got alien DNA in them, and so the reptilians and greys are after these rhesus negative people because they know that some people with more reptilian DNA will be able to mix well with reptilian DNA easier. So this is why they look for rhesus negative people, but they also abduct rhesus positive people as well for experiments, especially with everyone coming from so many diverse backgrounds nowadays. People are different ethnicities mixed together, so the aliens are very interested in this, and they're specifically looking for people with alien DNA in them. I see that they like to take the eggs of half reptilian, half humans, and there are some humans on Earth who don't know that they're half reptilian, and they look very human. I've seen most of them with blonde hair, blue or green eyes, rhesus negative looking hybrids. So they don't even know that they're hybrids, but I see the grey aliens wanting to abduct people who are rhesus negative, but at the same time they also abduct people with different hair colors and appearances and blood types as well. So what I've heard from other people, and before I had all these experiences with the grey aliens, and before the alien abduction with the greys, I was told by someone who had been physically abducted by the grey aliens, and he also had information from other people who've dealt with the grey aliens and have been abducted and had many experiences with the greys. So I was told by this man I know, Athol, I was told that the greys have an agenda. And what this means is, to be cautious around greys because you want to be sure about what their agenda is and what they want from you. Because we have to understand as humans that this is another species, and you have to make things very clear with them about what you want and what you don't want with them. So at the start I was very trusting with the greys and very naive. I didn't know a lot about them, and the greys did take advantage of me and my trust in them as well. So they thought, hey, we actually need we would like to abduct your soul and do some experiments. We find you very interesting, and once they found out that, I was having soul children, they were very interested in me after that, and that's when these soul abductions happened. Have had my soul abducted more than once. It's a very frightening experience, and I've been abducted physically more than once, and I've been asleep, but I can certainly remember the feeling of hands pressing down on me on my chest, So I'll explain the soul abductions in the next title. But I will say this and conclude this. If whatever you give out to the universe, whatever energy you send out, so if you say I only want to contact good ETs that have the best intentions for me, then you will get that. If your intention is to meet aliens that want only the best for you and never to hurt you and never to do anything that you don't want. But if you're looking to get abducted by gray aliens and you want to be experimented on and you don't really care what they do to you, you will have these sort of abduction experiences, you know. And sometimes you might think, oh, I really want to be abducted. And then you realize, oh, you know, like it's actually more frightening than I thought it was, you know. And so you need to lay down your boundaries. If you do wish to communicate with the Greys, lay down your boundaries and say, I don't want you to do this. You know, you can talk to me and that's fine. You know, whatever you want to say, make sure that you make your intentions clear. And if they are not agreeing with you, then what you need to do, so if they're not listening, then you need to ask for help from the Arcturians, or you need to call on the archangels. And you know, if they're abducting your soul and you don't want them to do that, then you need to take the steps to make sure that they stop doing that and they stop abducting you. So in my book Dark Skies, I write about some of my soul abduction experiences, and this is a picture I drew of my soul coming out of my body. And I remember so much love coming from this gray alien. It was incredible, and I was also in a trance, although this gray alien actually mind controlled me, and the way I reacted was very unnatural, like I was under some form of mind control. So I believe these Greys have some sort of mind control powers and other very strong supernatural abilities. I've seen that they have telekinesis, and they also have some other abilities as well. They're very psychic. So with these soul abduction experiences, I never experienced anything like it. But once I started, they started to abduct me, I would be in bed laying down. And you know how your eyes are closed in bed? I would feel hands pressing on my chest, you know, and it was very uncomfortable. And I'd be like, oh my God, what's going on? And then I would blank and I would pass out, you know. And this happened, the feeling of them with their hands all over my chest and my arms. And they were trying to hold me down while they used this device, this type of technology that can take your soul out of your body. So the reptilians and Greys have this technology. So there was one very intense soul experience, which was very physical, and it is physical because, you know, if it goes wrong and that device, you know, makes you wake up, and, you know, you'll definitely feel this whole electrical current going through your body. And essentially that's what it does. It vibrates your soul. However it's used is to take your soul out of your physical body. So what happened during this soul abduction experience, which I wrote about, it happened in April. I think it was 2014. I'm not quite sure. Might have been 2015, but it was a while back. So what happened was I was in a dream, and I was talking to... So first I was dreaming, I wasn't awake, and I was talking and I was hearing an alien abductee, and it was a woman, and she was saying, so I now know that she is a spirit guide and she's up there, you know, protecting me and trying to help me. But, you know, when she was alive, this woman was abducted by aliens, so now she is a spirit guide in the fifth dimension. So she was saying... she said to me in the dream, and I was seeing her, it was like, I had such horrible experiences being abducted by these gray aliens. So this woman had blonde hair, she was Caucasian, and she said, you know, like, I had this horrible experience with the Greys. I was so traumatized from the alien abductions I went through. And as I woke up, I heard these words, now I don't want that to happen to anyone else. And that's when my eyes opened and I was looking at the wall, and I said, and I felt like I knew the Greys were in the room, and I knew I was about to get abducted. You know the feeling, and you know it's going to happen. And I could feel them in the room. I'm like, they're here. They're going to abduct me right now. And I was staring at the wall, so I couldn't see what was going on around the bed, but I knew they were there. And so what happened was I felt electricity going through my teeth, and I said, what is going on? And it was like, you know, full on, you put an electrical current through my teeth, and that was really something I'd never felt before. So, and I said, is there, and then I felt this electricity, this current going through my body, and I thought, is there an electrical, you know, is there some wires leaking electricity? Is the bed, you know, like becoming live or something? What's happening? You know, I didn't know what was happening, you know. So suddenly, like, my soul was just went bang, and then I flew out of my body. I was awake, you know, and I wasn't supposed to be awake. The Greys thought I was asleep because I was facing the wall, but this spirit guide, this alien abductee, made me wake up. She didn't want my soul to get abducted, so she did this for a reason. So, you know, it's really interesting that I was like absolutely 100% awake. I could feel, I'd woken up from a dream, I was staring at the wall. I felt this electrical current going through my teeth that I'd never felt anything like it before, through this electrical current passing through my body. Then bang, my soul came out of my body, and I couldn't see anything, you know, and I was like, I can't see, you know. Obviously this whole soul abduction went wrong. I was supposed to be asleep for this to work. I was like, I can't see, and I really couldn't see, but I could feel the Grey alien next to me. He was very small, and I felt, although I couldn't see, I could feel him, my soul, you know, although my soul was out of my body, I could feel this Grey next to me. And he was actually quite small. They're very small. Small hands, small feet, small arms and legs, and he was actually crouching next to me, you know. So they were about to lift my soul out, but then it didn't work because, you know, I was awake. And so they just, once they realized I was awake and conscious, and they just taken my soul out, you know, I felt him, you know, his skin, my arm touched his skin on the side, and he was moving away, you know. He's like, oh my God, she's awake, you know. So there was about 3 Greys in the room, and then I was like, I can't see. I was freaking out. I couldn't see, and then suddenly one of these Greys brushed his hands against my cheek, and I had a survival instinct, you know, even though it was a soul, you know, I'm out of my body, and I started punching them. I know it's really horrible for me to get all violent and stuff, but I have a strong instinct to defend myself. So I started punching them, you know, because I was like, don't touch me, you know. I know what you're doing, you know. You're trying to abduct me, you know. It was more like you know, I'm in danger. I need to defend myself. So then, you know, I was punching them and attacking them, and they fell on the floor. And then they're like, no way, you know, like, oh my God, we thought she was asleep. They were really shocked. Their expression and the way they acted was very shocked that I was awake. And one of the Greys said, you know, I didn't sign up for this. And he said that, so I was just like, well, you know, you shouldn't have tried to abduct me. So they failed to abduct me that night. But what happened, so then what happened was my soul flew back into my body, and I was okay. You know, thankfully, that's good. And I woke up and I could still feel them in the room, you know. So I believe that these Grey aliens can move through the 3rd and 4th dimensions. So even though you can't see them, they're still there, and they can definitely remove your body and, you know, be as though you disappear if they abduct you. So, you know, I knew the next night that they would try again, and this time. And so what happened the next night was, you know, I knew they were going to come back because they'd failed to abduct my soul. They really wanted to do something, you know. So the next night, yeah, I'm like, you know what, they're going to come back, and they did. And I remember what happened, and there was about 10 of them, 10 gray aliens. I was in bed with my eyes closed, and I could feel them holding me down on my left and right side of my body, and they were holding me down. And then I'm like, oh shit, I can't win with this one, I'm not going to get out of this, so then I went boom, like, they abduct my soul, I can't, there's nothing I can do. There was about 10 holding my soul down. So they knew. So if they really want to abduct you, they will try and try again if they fail. So, ask for protection. If you don't want to be abducted, you don't want these things to happen, ask for protection, divine protection from, your guardian angel, archangels, spirit guides, these other aliens, the Arcturians and Pleiadians, who don't like what these reptilians and greys who are doing these physical abductions and soul abductions, and they'll be able to protect you and help you. So after all these, alien abductions, the soul abductions, and a few physical abductions, I went to see an energy healer named Brett Farrell, and he did a wonderful job on me. And it wasn't about remembering what happened, it's about healing what happened as well. Rather than go to a psychologist and have them take notes and look at me like I'm from Mars and I'm completely mad, which I know I'm not. I'd rather go to someone who understands, and I would recommend the same for anyone else going through what I've been through, or wanting to have a regression, to go to a hypnotherapist or an energy healer who knows about these alien abductions and is well aware of these with ETs and this type of thing, to go to an energy healer, because they will understand your situation and they'll understand what you're going through. So I've been to a psychologist before, but honestly, I feel more comfortable being in the company of someone who understands what I've been through and knows the reality of these extraterrestrials existing, and has a whole lot more information and a lot more skills in energy healing that can help me. So you can look at this guy's website. His name is Brett Farrell, and he did a wonderful job on me. And honestly, I felt so much better after the healing and the alien abduction regression. I honestly came up from that chair, and I felt so light, so full of light. I felt so good. I didn't think that I would feel so good after this session, but I was so happy to have it done. I'm really happy I did the alien regression. Okay, so I want everyone to be aware of something that some people know about, but if not everyone knows about this, now you're going to know. And it's important that everyone knows about this. And anyone who is also going through these experiences with the Greys, you need to be aware that the Greys are soul abducting people and taking out these soul parts out of people. So you have a complete soul, but there are parts of your soul that make up you. So what these Greys are doing, and I've seen it in the astral realm, because I've actually encountered these black rods, and they're in the picture. It's probably twice as thick as that, and it's hollow in the middle. And some of these Greys, and what they're doing in the fourth dimension, there are some bases that are only seen in the fourth dimension, and they're in the middle of a forest, so you can't see them in the third dimension, but there are these bases where these black rods are kept, and inside are soul parts of people that they've taken out of children, that they've taken out of adults, that they've taken out of old people as well. And they shouldn't be doing this. They're not allowed to do this. So they've done it to me, and I knew, because I was looking for all my soul parts, and I said, why are they taking them out? they're not allowed to do this. I'm not going to allow them to do this. And in this tub where I tracked my soul part and I got it back, I saw that there were other people's soul parts stuck, obviously forcibly taken without these people's knowledge. And they were all inside this container. And so what I did was I freed all these soul parts out of these black cylinders and I sent them back to their owners. So inside, the soul parts look white and etheric, and that's how our soul parts look, So, yes, this is why you shouldn't trust every person and trust every gray that comes to you, and you should always, lay down rules and say, I don't want you to do this. You stop taking my soul parts. You have to really put down your foot and tell them who's the boss, or else they'll take advantage of you. And if they continue to manipulate you and they keep doing what they're doing and they're not listening, that's when you have to call on a higher power and say, no, you're not going to do this anymore. I'm getting help. And you're not going to get away with this. I'm getting my soul parts back. And you can actually heal yourself and bring all your soul parts back to your body. And usually they'll be in black cylinders. They'll be in different type of experimental boxes, and in a gray alien lab, which is where I've had to pull mine out of so many times. Sometimes they'll take small parts of your soul tissue out. And the reason why they're taking these soul tissue out is because they're trying to make their gray alien clones have a soul. They really want their gray aliens, their clones, the gray alien species, are trying to create a soul fusion process with the physical gray alien body. So this is why they're studying the soul, and you may have heard from other people and read other people who've also, alien abductees who've been on a spaceship and said they've seen a body in a suspended animation where the soul and the body are kind of like in this weird process. And what they're describing is the gray aliens doing soul experiments, and trying to study human bodies. And again, they've been given permission by our governments and by the reptilians. The reptilians can also ask them to do these things as well. Now, I'll tell you what I know so far from what I've seen. So these gray aliens are actually don't have a soul, but they're conscious, alive extraterrestrial beings. Humans, on the other hand, and other extraterrestrial races all have a soul. Even reptilians, they all have a soul. And it is a divine spark that is inside all living beings on Earth, in other dimensions, on other planets. Everyone is connected together, whether it is we all came from one source in the beginning. It is a divine soul that and the divine spark inside of all of us. So these grays don't have a soul. And this is interesting that they can actually have a soul if they want to. They can be granted a soul, and they can have a soul created in their body by these higher dimensional extraterrestrial light beings. There are, like God, there are these very powerful divine light beings that exist in these very high dimensions that can grant aliens on a more of a physical plane, like the grays, a soul. They can actually be granted a soul. But the problem is they don't want to give the gray aliens a soul fusion or a soul at all, or create one for them. And the reason why is they're not happy with the gray aliens doing these experiments on humans, on other alien species. They're not happy so far with what the gray aliens have done, and their track record looks bad. So some of these grays, if they ask for a soul, can be granted one. Ones that didn't take part in these abductions. And I do see that there are some very good, kind gray aliens out there. And I see that these, if they ask for it, they will be granted a soul. And these other ones, they will not want to. These higher dimensional ET beings look down on the grays, and the ones doing these experiments, and they do not want to grant them a soul, and they don't want to assist in helping them achieve that, and the other, obviously they're saying that they're stealing soul parts out of humans, out of other, doing all these experiments, and they're not happy. They're like, well, you're not really doing good things, so we're not going to do that for you. We're not going to assist you. We're here for a different reason, and we're not going to, and they don't want to do that, So that is why the gray aliens are doing these experiments, to do the soul fusion process, to try and create the gray alien clones to have a soul. So this is how I feel about the Greys. So since the soul abductions have now stopped, and it's been good, and they've apologized to me, the Grey aliens, and they've said to me, we're so sorry for what we've put you through, and I think they didn't, they thought that they could take advantage of me, and they thought it was okay, because I did agree that they could abduct me as well. But I didn't know that they would do a soul abduction. So, it was kind of a weird situation. But what I do know is these gray aliens are not extremely evil beings. They're not out to hurt humans. They do care. They're very conscious. They are aware of what they're doing in every moment. They feel the emotions of what humans feel inside, what I feel inside. They feel how I feel, and when I tell my story and how I feel, just even making this video, and they're listening to me, and how it felt for me to be abducted, they feel bad, so they do feel remorse inside, and it's a strange situation between, and it would be, because they are an extremely advanced alien race, and humans are not on the level where we are on that level of advancement. So there would be a level of the Greys taking advantage of humans, and seeing us as more of a more of a being that they can take advantage of. But once you tell them that, hey, I don't want you to do that anymore, you're making me feel really bad, then they realize, sorry, I didn't want you to feel that bad. I thought you said you want to be abducted, and so it's important for you to tell them what you want, so I don't think the gray aliens are evil, and they're just going about their lives just like we are. They've got different jobs, they're very hardworking. They're a very hardworking alien species, doing so many different jobs. I feel that they're more hardworking than humans at times, and of course, they're different than humans, but at the same time, humans are also hardworking. But I believe they're really hardworking when I see them on the spaceship, doing so many different jobs on the controls, monitoring so many different things, programming, taking care of hybrids, scientific experiments, new technology, and so many different things that they're doing to try and better their race. So it's not like they don't care about humans, and that's not what I see. That's not what I hear from them as well. So there are these greys, from what I've heard from many different greys, they're very interested in humans, and not all of them are out to abduct people. And a lot of them are working, you know, making things and making weapons on a spaceship, you know, welding. They're doing different jobs. So not all these greys are evil and doing these abductions, and I want everyone to understand that as well. There's one grey alien called Talor, and I've written about him in my book Dark Skies, in one of the chapters, Our Precious Earth. And he was telling me about how he lives in a base under the ocean, there's a base, apparently where these greys are staying, on the bottom of the ocean floor. And Talor, and how he spoke to me, there was so much concern for the welfare of the ocean and the fish and the aquatic life, and he was concerned also about deforestation, and also about the scientific studies as well, the pH level of the ocean, and there was several issues that he, things that he said. And I don't know a lot about these. I don't know a lot about science. I only know some things, but he was telling me, but I'm able to translate what he's saying very well. And I was very, I think I was surprised to hear, that he was telling me all this stuff. And he's like, I'm so worried for the oceans. And he told me how they saved fish species, and they're saving endangered fish species, and and I guess they're creating a gene bank for these fish too, and they're gonna try and bring them back. And so he was telling me all these things that were actually true about the fish going extinct in the Great Barrier Reef, and I didn't know anything about this. And I stumbled across an article one day, and it said how there was several fish species in the Great Barrier Reef which are extinct. So if you don't know where the Great Barrier Reef is, that's in Australia, in Queensland. On the coastline, we have all this beautiful reef area, which is now, slowly, because the earth is warming up, all the coral reef is dying. So this is a very delicate time, and we should start, humanity should start standing up, and we should start taking more interest in saving our planet. Especially since these greys have also raised their concerns with me about the planet and what's happening. So I've drawn this picture of a vision I had of these 3 grey aliens exploring a water tank somewhere, and I haven't drawn it really well, but it's next to a old apartment building, maybe an old industrial site. And if you look at that upper brown level, there's actually a train track, and there's actually columns, but I didn't draw them in. So wherever this is, it's a real place, and I was seeing that at night time, these grey aliens were exploring this water tank, and they parked their UFO on the ground, and you can see them with this, their own torch, and they're like really curious, and one of them is inside the tank, and I'm not sure what they're doing there, but I can imagine that, they went out and they wanted to explore, Earth. And that is the nature of the greys. They're so curious, and they're like, and I thought it was really amazing that I had this vision, and I've had so many other visions. This is just one vision that I've drawn in a picture of the greys, exploring Earth. So, yeah, it's really cool. Okay guys, so it's been a really long video, and you've been really patient with me listening to all my, really interesting stories about the gray aliens. Maybe a lot for some of you to take in, but it is, absolutely real. Everything that's happening and everything I'm telling you is what I've seen and what I've experienced. So on a lighter note, I'll tell you a really interesting story, a really interesting vision I see of myself in the future. I see myself getting abducted by gray aliens, whether or not this happens. And again, with those dark forces and these people who are watching me, they'll try and stop things from happening. So I don't know whether this will happen, but it may happen. And I do see something like this happening where I'm driving on a road, next to a forest. There's forest on either side, and there's like a mountain with a big antenna on top. And I'm driving, and I see this blue spacecraft flying over, up ahead, maybe 50 meters ahead, and land in this forest clearing area right next to where I'm driving. And obviously, me being really crazy and adventurous, maybe a little bit too gutsy. I drive, into this, there's like a little drive entrance. You can drive into this forest clearing where the spaceship is parked. And I see myself getting abducted by these gray aliens. And they're saying to me through the car, and I'm hiding, actually. I'm hiding where my foot's, where the foot pedals are, and I'm trying not to be seen because I'm scared out of my wits. I'm like, oh, I want to go, and I'm like, oh no, I'm gonna hide now. When they come out, and then I hear them saying to me when they're outside my car window, they're like, come on, let's go. What are you waiting for? So I took these two pictures of gray alien spaceships, and it's funny because I didn't know about them before, and before I found these images of these blue spacecraft, I saw that it was a blue spaceship. It was glowing a blue light, and I thought it was really weird. So then I stumbled across these images, and then they were saying that they were gray aliens. I don't know whose pictures they are, but they're exactly like this spaceship I see in the future abducting me. It looks exactly like that. It emanates a blue light, and there's gray aliens in it. They are gray aliens on that spaceship, that's emanating the blue light. And I know that one of the tall gray aliens is in there, and the other short grays. So I see that happening, and in the future, and it's whether it happens or not, it's still a crazy vision. So I'll tell you another crazy vision I've had. I have this vision where I'm abducted by the Greys a second time, but I'm actually abducted in a national park, and I see this Grey, and I'm like kind of scared, because I always drive by myself to places because I'm fearless. I've never been hurt. I know what I'm doing. But if there's Grey aliens with advanced technology, if they want to take you, they're gonna take you. There's not much you can do. I'm walking through this national park, and I've just parked my car in the car park, and I see this Grey, and he's kind of a short Grey, and he's kind of looking at me, and I'm like, oh God, but I want to go near him, but I'm at the same time a little bit hesitant. And he's also hesitant. It's kind of like we're both kind of scared of each other, but we both want to meet, but then we're kind of like, oh God, we're a bit scared of each other. And anyway, so finally, like, I get into my car because he starts coming closer to me. And I'm like, oh, I'm getting in my car now, and I see that he takes me through the car door, and then I disappear, and he brings me up into the spaceship. So I have this crazy vision of living with these Greys on a spaceship, who are the ones making these technology. I don't think they're doing abductions. These Greys are the ones making weapons on the spaceship. They're workers. So I have this crazy funny vision of them. I'm hungry, and I'm like, because they eat different foods. I know they drink water, And I see them going down to a takeaway shop, Chinese noodle takeaway, and I think someone ordered noodles, but I think they swiped these Chinese noodles, you know, in the box, you know, those boxes that you get when you get takeaway. So I see them swiping these noodles for me and then disappearing back, you know, to the spaceship. And some poor person probably, you know, was thinking, "Where's my noodles?" You know, they were just there. You know, so I feel bad, but you know, like I'm probably really hungry. And I also see that the Grace, this really funny part where, you know, they don't know what food to bring me. So I see them going to 7-Eleven and they're getting lollies and a whole lot of lollies, and then I see that I'm on the spaceship and it's, you know, really dark, and you know, the interior looks very dark. You know, it looks very like an alien interior. And they're just opening their hands at me and saying, "Here, eat," you know, and it's all like junk food and lollies, and I'm looking at them going, "Oh, that's really sweet, but you know, it's junk food." I don't think they knew what food to get me. So it was really like interesting to see that I could just see them and you know, in this vision holding out food to me. You know, them going to 7-Eleven going, "What does she eat?" You know, trying to figure out what food I eat, and then getting me junk food and chips and lollies, and you know. So, you know, it's really interesting to see something like that. Whether or not it happens, it's really, you know, interesting. And so anyway, guys, it's been a long video. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being patient with me. I'm going to try and get more videos out. You know, I'm under a lot of pressure with these dark forces, and there's a lot of, you know, reptilians, some that don't like me and don't want me to talk. So I've had this pressure on me for quite a long time, and I'm trying to get everything out to you. So anyway, guys, thanks for listening. You know, thank you to all my subscribers, and I'll see you in the next video, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Bye.